Hey everyone, John from ARTV. It is time for another throwback review. It's time to talk about the fourth studio album, Viva La Vida, or Death and All His Friends. This is by the rock band Coldplay, and it was released by Parlophone in 2008. This is an album that was a turning point for the band, a band that were kind of comfortable with themselves at this time, but they took on a couple of new producers like Rick Simpson, Brian Eno, which was the main factor in them moving forward, being pushed to craft songs that not only challenged their back catalog, but also themselves personally, to write, for Chris Martin at least, lyrics that were from a different perspective. And here we get the topics of war, conflict, love, and double entendres, double meanings to their songs, whether they be relating to war or to love. It's kind of a fine line that they ride, and for that reason, this is a very, very smart album. This is one of my personal favorites from Coldplay, and I'm not going to tell you exactly where it lands on my favorites because I am going to be doing a ranked list for all of the Coldplay studio albums very, very soon. If you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out, and check out my other Coldplay related content. And don't forget to drop a like on the video while you're here. So Viva La Vida, or Death and All His Friends. It's a record that I've never really talked about all that much from the band, and it's one that I'm kind of disappointed in myself for because I never gave it enough of a chance. Whenever it first came out, I wasn't super into it, I wasn't against it, and whenever I say I'm disappointed in myself, I'm disappointed because I haven't spent enough time listening to it. So on Viva La Vida, the songs do sound different from each other, but connected at the same time. So what is that seam that's being stitched together, holding it together like glue? Well, obviously you have to give credit to the producers, but the writing is intact and on point as well. Like I said, double meanings to these songs definitely give it a life of its own. And if you've never heard of it, or if you're not aware of it, if you've never listened to this project, also check out the Prospect March EP that came later and was kind of paired up with the album, and it features a couple of reworked versions like Life in Technicolor Part 2, a remix of Lovers in Japan. There's different mixes of songs, but also some new ones that are quite beautiful as well, like Glass of Water that I absolutely love, and the short and sweet Postcards from Far Away. But in terms of the actual technical 10 songs, even though some of these are split into 2 parts, I think that it's one of those overwhelming albums that just gets you more and more as you keep listening to it. And this review is inspired by me picking up this record about a month ago. I found it used in the record bin for about 10 bucks, and I said to myself, I've been meaning to get into this record more and more, why not make this the time? And I did that. It absolutely floored me. The more I listened to the project, the more that I saw the insight and meaning and the color in the music as well. Because even though it is dark at times, this project also brings a lot to life, and some of it is quite poetic. And I dare say that this is Coldplay's smartest album that they have ever put out into the world, and I'm so glad that it saw so much success. Viva La Vida was the band's first #1, not only in the US, but their home country of the UK as well. And that's incredible, and it is one of those timeless songs that nearly 10 years later still stands so tall. In fact, I'm not sick of it still to this day. I heard it all the time back then, and I play it now, and I just want to scream along because the lyrics are classic. It's the only word that I can use to describe it. The band pushed themselves hard to make their guitars sound different. Like on Yes, for example, they're almost more classical mixed with these orchestral elements that come in as well. Just sweeping me off my feet. One of the best songs on this record, one of the best of Coldplay's career. It also features Chris Martin pushing himself vocally. Like I just said, Yes is a track that sees him singing in such a deep register that many might not even recognize him. And Coldplay, to expand this much after 2 of their most successful albums, just massive worldwide smashes, and they come back and play around with their sound so much it might alienate some, but it didn't really come across that way because you could still see that Coldplay were them, just with maybe a new exterior in a way. They were pushing themselves and kind of parting the seas, saying, hey, we're still here standing in the middle, but we've got stuff over here, and let's let the waves crash down and pull it all together. There's a stark contrast that opens up this record in the form of Life in Technicolor, one that definitely is that. It's full of color and life, and it just puts a smile on my face. I love listening to Life in Technicolor Part 2 as well. It originally had lyrics, but they stripped it away because everybody was saying, hey, that's gonna be a single, that's going to be a hit. And they were like, we want this to be a meaningful and impactful opening moment. So they took out the lyrical content and made it a little bit shorter as well. But immediately after that, we get a fade out into the next track, Cemeteries of London, which is kind of a chilling one. It sends a shiver down the spine just thinking about the meaning behind the song. All of the lost souls, death, life, pondering what's next and that sort of thing. And it opens a lot of doors for Coldplay, quite honestly, because this, and not only this, but the musicality of it as well, is something that has a great ebb and flow to it. All throughout this record, they strike the perfect balance between making songs that can stand on their own, but at the same time transitioning into each other. This album is actually a perfect loop from start to finish. You see the hidden track, The Escapist, at the end of the record after Death and All His Friends, just kind of fading out, but then it fades back in on Life in Technicolor, and you get that bright music once again. And it's one of those few albums that gives me the temptation to say, hey, play it again. There's something more that you're going to discover next time. Following up what I was saying about the darker theme of Cemeteries of London, we also have some moments that come in the form of 42, which is apparently Chris Martin and Will Champion's favorite number, or else one of their favorite numbers, and also Violet Hill, which did make my list, my top 10. It was right up there near the top, and I still have so much love for that tune. But first, let's talk about 42. This is one that I see as being a much more somber and solemn moment that comes in this record, and it's kind of downright depressing in a way, because you think about everything that is going on here, what's being said, and it seems like, you know, life can be in vain a lot of times. Like, maybe what are we leaving behind, or what are we working towards? What are these goals that we set for ourselves and then gently push aside once we reach them? What's next? What do we keep driving at as human beings? And the musicality and the instrumentation that goes along with it is elegant. It's one of those graceful tunes that just gets better and better and better to me. Whenever I first started my plans to review this record, I was like, I don't know how this is going to stack up. Really, at first I was feeling like a strong 4, but I started feeling even more positively towards it because I unlocked moments like this for myself. And then I found even more love for ones like Violet Hill. Violet Hill is one that, yes, seems to be about love, but maybe love in a time of war. Everything from maybe the Spanish Inquisition, the French Revolution, or something going on really in any war. It's applicable to a lot of different scenarios. But Violet Hill is one that sees a man wanting to be loved. He wants it to be requited, and he sees his interest as being maybe a bit cold and distant, and he takes her to this place to really question her and see what her intentions are. Where are we going? And the pianos and the way that they loom and linger on this track, it's haunting. It's a beautiful song, one of the best that Coldplay have ever done. Somewhere in the middle between the sadness and the light, we have a track called Yes, which is about 7 minutes long, and it is damn near flawless. This thing is so crazy because it doesn't seem like it's a Coldplay song. In a way, it's something that is so different. Like I mentioned, Chris Martin singing in a much lower register, and his tone and his approach to the track seems to be about wanting sex, and he's driven as a sexual creature. He's wanting this girl to marry him, and he keeps maybe popping the question or posing it, and he can't hold back his desires anymore. Will she say yes? Well, it's really anyone's guess. He ponders on this one amidst the guitar chaos. It's something that lines up like an orchestral element, but also has this kind of weird guitar, and the way that that's toned with that bass that hangs around in the background as well. It's an ace up the sleeve in one of Coldplay's most underrated tracks, and the transformation that it undergoes about halfway through is mesmerizing. If you're looking for something a little bit happier, at least in terms of the music on the record, we have Lovers in Japan, which appeals to a lot of different people, but it kind of takes place in a different setting. They push themselves for this one to write from maybe a different perspective, and they obviously name check things that are in Japan, things that are taking place around the world, but it's one that kind of has a heartwarming feel to it. I enjoy the other mix on the EP maybe just a bit more, but I absolutely have a lot of love for this track, even though it isn't a top favorite for me. Alongside that one, we also have the track Strawberry Swing, which I see is just kind of mind-blowing in a way because I paid it so little attention, even though it was a single for the longest time. But it's one of those things that it just slowly creeps up your arm into your ear, and you're like, oh wow, what is that melody that I have in my head? It's Strawberry Swing. And the more I got into this song, the more I paid attention to and related to the lyrics. It seems to be about seizing that perfect day that's right in front of you every single day. And perfect day is obviously something that they addressed once again on their most recent recent album, A Head Full of Dreams, and it's something that's been recurring throughout their past few albums because I feel like Chris Martin is pushing himself to seize this even in the hardest of times. And here, it's basically saying that, hey, there's distractions everywhere. Maybe push those to the side for a little bit and stop taking away from the day that could be your day. It could be your perfect time to shine, to do whatever, to create whatever. Go do it instead of just sitting around. And it's a very, very happy and upbeat tune. Other singles, Lost and Viva La Vida, are huge smashes that soar with some of the best hooks of Coldplay's career. Viva La Vida, like I said, a timeless hit that your friends are all gonna know and sing along to. And trust me, challenge them if they only know that one. Show them more of this record. Some people don't even know Lost, and Lost does have several different versions, but my favorite is the one that appears right here on the regular edition, not just the stripped down or the one that features the plus Jay-Z. No, I prefer this version, the Lost with the question mark. That guitar solo, those peppy claps, the drum stomps on this track, the sing-along feel to it, it's all alluring. It's something that's going to tempt you to have repeated listens of the track, and it merits that. Honestly, it's deserving of that. And if you said that for really every single song on this album or playing this album as a whole, like John, I can't stop listening to it, it's one of those things where I have to listen to the entire album, I would believe you 100% because this is an enthralling and addicting listen that is incredibly smart. I think it's overlooked by many, and even though critics were pretty warm towards it, I don't think that they necessarily gave it the high praise and accolades it did, especially as it settled in over time to really become more of a classic staple of Coldplay's catalog. I think it's one of their best damn records, and I have to give this a 5 out of 5. It grew on me so much, seriously, even in just the past month listening to it to get ready for this review. Thanks for watching my review today, guys. If you would like to see my favorite tracks from this release, my top favorites that is, and maybe even stream the record for yourself, there's links in the description box down below. And if you do want to see that ranked episode for Coldplay that I'm working on, sound off your excitement in the comment section down below. If you're able to help me out on Patreon on a monthly basis, please click that annotation over there in the corner of the outro card here. And if you would like to see another Coldplay video, my top 10 Coldplay songs, click right here, or another Coldplay review right here. All of my socials are in the description. Other than that, I'll see you very soon for more content right here on ARTV.